Morning, everybody. And I just figured to do something different to start the video this time. I won't be doing this all the time, but you can see this is the dive bar that I'm working out of. Okay, I don't want to go actually show the bar because there's actually people at the bar, but there it is. That's the booth that I work out of. So I have a stand that holds the camera into place. I got there is the box. I have my art supplies, and then of course whatever I'm going to work on is in that plastic bag. Got the ink, and let's just put it onto the stand. I've already got it lined up, so we can start working. So I figured just show. I'm always talking about how I work at the bar, but I only show like you only get to see like that much. So I figured, what the hell? I'll just actually show you guys the rest of the bar. I think what I'm going to do today is it's going to be kind of boring art-wise, because I'm going to be coloring this eye in here, and then I'll move over and I'll work on this area here. So we'll see how much I get done in the course of this video. Today I want to talk about what books do you suggest to people. When I say people, I mean like adults, okay? What comic books do you suggest to get them into comics? And when I say that, I think about how, like Amanda B. or in the chat, she started reading comic books as CG, and the only thing she's really read, other than like the Hillbilly Book Club books, which is done by other Comicsgate artists, is basically crowdfunded books and CG books. So what mainstream publishers, if you were to, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because we all know she was on this with Stat Show, and here she was bidding on Velvet, an Image comic by Steve Epting. And she was bidding on it on eBay, and she got it. She won it. So it made me think about like what other books, like mainstream books, because that's not like a superhero book. It's just a good book. So what books would you suggest to someone like Amanda to get them hey, what mainstream books would you suggest to them? So I was thinking about it, and I came up with some suggestions. So that's what this conversation is going to be about. I was going to do another one, but it was going to be about Star Trek. But I thought about that's like an evergreen topic that you can talk about when you don't have any topics to talk about. So, but I wanted to go with this one specifically because of the timeline of Amanda. Amanda has to have that book by now. And she may have read it, or it's on her stack of books to read. So if she finishes reading it and she likes it, maybe there's other books that we can be suggested to her. So that's why I'm coming up with this subject for today's video. Anybody who's watching today's video because you were in John's long box this morning while he was doing Daredevil, a flip through of Daredevil issue number 1, welcome. When you get done watching this video, put your suggestions in the comments as to what books you think are good books to suggest to someone who knows about comics, knows about superheroes, but isn't a superhero fan per se. Okay? So the first one out of the gate that I thought would be a good one, is Bermuda by Nick Bradshaw, printed by IDW. I think that that one was essentially Pippi Longstockings in the Bermuda Triangle. The female character, she reminded me just of like Pippi Longstocking. No fear in the world. And she's like showing the new kid that shows up, basically showing him the ropes of how to survive in this island. And the island itself, it's like the Bermuda Triangle meets Peter Parker in Never Neverland. It has like Vikings and pirates and naval submariners that a submarine crashed there. You've got these like little like I want to say like little monkeys because they got these big ass ears, like lemurs or not like lemurs, like I don't know, like corgis, and they've got little skull masks, and then you've got those mirror creatures that are kind of like Land of the Lost. So I thought of that and I was like, that's one of those books that you can get anybody any imaginative person likes good stories. It's a straightforward story, adventure story. Again, I don't look at one of those words like, oh well, because of today's day and age, it has a female in the lead. No, it's like I said, it reminds me of Pippi Longstocking. Pippi Longstocking meets Peter Pan, and the Bermuda Triangle is Never Neverland. So that was my first book that I thought of. Nick Bradshaw, he has heavily aped Art Adams, that his style mirrors it. Andy Smith has even said how there's times when he will see a cover, he has to take a close look to see that it's Nick Bradshaw's artwork and not Art Adams. Art Adams has a very unique style, and Nick Bradshaw's got a style that borderline mirrors it. And there's nothing wrong with that. When you look at how like everybody mirrors another person's style one way or another. Okay. One last thing. When I showed you that video in the beginning, you saw the stand that my phone's hooked up on. It's attached to the table. Okay. This table is not firmly mounted to the wall. So when I stipple, because the board is leaning on the table, that's what causes that somewhat shaky effect on the camera. So I apologize. There's nothing I can really do about that. Unless you can give me step-by-step instructions how to, this is an iPhone, how to eliminate the shaky when you resave the video. I haven't figured out how to do that yet. So, not very tech savvy. That's the reason why I don't have any thumbnails at the beginning of my videos. It's like go in cold. So, but the second book I would suggest. Now, this is one that you can have a lot of conflict about it. The next book is Astonishing X-Men by Joss Whedon and John Cassidy. It's essentially they're reestablishing the X-Men in the Marvel universe. For years, they kind of gotten to the point where the Marvel books were completely isolated from the Marvel universe, and that was Joss Whedon's job, I guess, was to reestablish these characters inside the Marvel universe. And the only really things you really need to know before you flip open the book or to advise someone who knows about the X-Men movies and they're picking up this as their very first X-Men comic book, the only things you really need to know is Jean Grey, the Marvel girl. She has died again. Cyclops, Scott Summers, he is now hooked up with the White Queen, who is a former villain. Why? I don't know. Probably because they have a quota that they have to have a female telepath. And then the other thing is that when this book story happens, Peter, the Colossus, he has died. I don't know what the reasoning was. It's not necessarily all that important to me. It's just that he was an X-Man. He was Colossus. He turned to steel, and he was really strong, and he is dead. And in the course of the story, you discover that he is, in fact, alive. And he had a strong romantic relationship with Kitty Pryde. And Joss fed on a lot of the lore of X-Men from the like John Byrne Claremont days when he did this story. And I thought it was a very good story of reestablishing that if you are never read an X-Men book, this is a good book to establish the characters, provide you with a good, entertaining story, and at the same time also it's a good story because it has a beginning, middle, and end to the whole overall arc. And again, this is a book that you can go to any comic book store and they'll have it as a trade paperback or on the shelf. Whether you want to spend a lot of money for the hardbound version or just get the softbound version, or you could probably find it available for you to available on Amazon or eBay if you want to bid on it. But I think that's another story. It's a good overall from beginning, middle, and end by Joss. He wraps everything up at the beginning, by the end of the book, so he doesn't have to worry about someone else coming on. And because someone did after it was such a hit, they wouldn't allow the book to end. Brought in a whole new team, but you don't need to. When Joss is done with his story arc, it's done. You don't feel the need that you have to get the following issues after that at all. So that's the second book I would suggest. Another one also is Marvel Projects. Marvel Projects was not a retconning the original Marvel characters. It was like a retelling of the story of the Human Torch, Submariner, Captain America, Bucky, and like basically their origin just prior to World War II. So, and then the other ones that I thought about, which again I think these next ones I think are even more along the lines of Amanda B. and books that she might be able to grasp on because they're not superhero books. There's Cinder and Ash by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. You should be able, if you go to any comic book store in the dollar bins, you should be able to get a hold of it. I don't think it was ever released as a trade paperback. You'd have to get it as floppies. But that one also, it's a Vietnam person who serves in Vietnam. And when there's the fall, what was it, the Tet Offense? It was like the fall of Shanghai and everything. He's getting the hell out of Dodge, and he grabs this little girl who's half Vietnamese. I think she's like half black, half Vietnamese. Okay, and he takes her over to the States with him, and he basically raises her, and they form a detective agency. That was that one plays to Jose's strengths. Jose's a true draftsman and storyteller, and he basically his pencils and his storytelling really sing because it's not bogged down with the having to worry about the disbelief of superhero powers. Then, of course, there's also the adaptation of Stephen King's The Stand with artwork by Mike Perkins and the colors by Laura Martin. It was broken up, and I think into 4 parts. First part was Captain Trips. Second part was American Nightmare. And then there's 2 other more parts. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head. So, but those also, and those most likely you can get if you were to go to a books like a Barnes & Noble or Books A Million bookstore. You probably wouldn't get them if you went to a library. They're that popular. I remember walking into Barnes & Noble, and they had them sitting on one of their display tables as soon as you walked in. That's when Marvel was really wanting to get into that push of, we're selling graphic novels, not comic books. Which, as we've, on various shows, we've heard how basically the industry hates the comic book stores and wants to be exclusive to bookstores because they have more credibility, and they snubs to the comic book stores. So, and then lastly, the last one here is Leave It to Chance by Paul Smith. Which, yeah, you can say that when you look at that and you're like, oh, well, that's Kitty Pryde and Lockheed. reimagined by, or his rip off of those characters, which it could be. But it was very entertaining. This artwork is simple, which, I mean, for me and like how I am, I'm very critical of that. It still was a very, that's one of those examples of because he's proven he can do graphic storytelling, when he goes into that simpler style, you can still see the bones of his style in the book. So, but those are my suggestions that any person. So, Amanda, if you're reading this, and yes, I'm going to be actually like, you know, at you when I post this on Twitter, posting this video on Twitter. These are the books that off the top of my head, that I would say give a shot and take a look at to possibly get. There is good stuff out there that are non-superheroes within the mainstream. It's just A, finding it, and B, finding good suggestions by other people that know your tastes. Like I said, I came up with this idea, I think it was like last night after the show when we were talking. Remember, Amanda wasn't on the show. Or it was that along with like this morning, I was thinking about it, and that's where I came up with this list of books. So that's it for today, guys. I want you guys all have a great day. But like I said, in the comments, tell me what you think. What books do you think are good books to suggest to people who are getting into comics but don't really but aren't big on the superhero books? What books would you suggest to them to try out or to look into? So let me know in the comments. But remember, everybody, life is stressful, but you just take it all one dot at a time.